Hello and welcome. Today we will be going over Magnus Carlsen in the FIDE World Team Rapid and Blitz Chess Championships. Magnus has been struggling lately in Norway chess. He lost 4 games in a row in Classical. He's also then lost multiple rapid games in a row as well. This is a showing that we've not seen in probably 12 years from Magnus Carlsen. So everybody's curious, how is Magnus doing? How is he going to perform now? And so today we're going to be watching him play some Blitz. The game starts off with e4, Magnus versus Hongchi, Peng Hongchi, e5, the classical opening we all know and love. Now, the Vienna game, known as the alternative to the Italian game or the Spanish game. Um, Both players probably are familiar with this opening, most assuredly, but sometimes it is used to get out of the prep of your opponent in the typical e4, e5 lines you might see. And this line can also be highly aggressive. There's many gambits. The knight stays back on g1, oftentimes preparing for f4. This time we see knight c6, also known as the Max Lang defense or the copycat variation. g3, also known as the Paulsen variation. It's just a sound structural thing. The bishop comes here and is eyeing this e4 square instead of in the Italian or the Spanish games coming out to c4 or b5. g6, bishop g2, bishop g7, d3, d6, you might be noticing something. I think some copycat is going on. It's exactly like that Max Lang defense that we were talking about earlier. Knight ge2, knight ge7, bishop d2, and then castles, breaking the copycat. h4, h5, it continues for one more move, bishop g5, and finally the copying is completely done. The bishop finds a home with a powerful pen, pinning this knight to the queen. Magnus has some ideas, and we're going to see how exactly does he dismantle this copycat variation. This is something you might see from, someone in an amateur player that you're playing, in a club, or like your friend. They might just copy every move you play. So how does Magnus deal with that? That's what we're going to see today. Bishop e6, knight d5. Now this resembles the Italian game and the Spanish like we talked earlier, but again, this bishop is on e6 and our bishop is on g2, not competing for those same squares. So now, here's the question: How exactly would you deal with this? There's many ways to deal with it. There's two main ways. There's taking, right, which doubles up the pawns, which is pretty nice. It's a nice thing to do to double your opponent's pawns up. But of course, there is c4. Now there's also f6, weakening the king's safety, but I would say that this move is highly preferred because you kick the bishop out. The bishop's probably going back to d2, which kind of is in the way of the queen. Maybe they could go back to e3. But you also prepare for eventually playing f5 and this rook opening up. So I like that move, and that's what I would do if I knew to do that, but I probably wouldn't. But what we see instead is bishop takes d5, creating double pawns, which seems great on paper, but sort of like I showed you, there's ways to defend it. There's c4, there's b3. It's not that bad, and this bishop is actually black's good bishop because it's the light square bishop. It's on the light squares, but the pawns are on the dark squares. So giving up your good square bishop for a knight that so far isn't doing anything is somewhat of a mistake. The computer here likes white's position now. The first small advantage given to Magnus is occurring. E takes d5, accepting the double pawns. Now, the knight is attacked. There's 3 possible moves that you could go to. One of them is a blunder. Which one is it? Right? So let's go over it. Knight b4, queen d2, knight a4. This isn't too bad. The knight's on the rim. He's a little dim. It's a little worse for black, right? But it's okay. Now, what about knight b8, c4, and then knight d7? This is pretty good. You've rerouted the knight. The knight's defending this e5 pawn, and he's attacking the c5 square. So this seems pretty good, and he can eventually come here or here. So he's actually got a pretty good job over here. This is only slightly better for white. Instead, we see a blunder. Um, Knight d4, inviting the trade of the knights and doubling his own pawns in the process. It's a massive blunder. Um, and it's the only bad move here. I'm not sure what his plan was, but seeing why this is a blunder is actually quite difficult because after knight takes d4, e takes d4, they both have double pawns. It couldn't be that bad, right? But the one crucial thing that makes this very different is that the queen is unveiled, and so the queen is ready to invade with g4, and if h takes g, then the queen can invade over here, and it's going to work along with the rooks and eventually bring the rooks over. So this is why this is a blunder, is you invite an attack. This is very bad for black now. g4, Magnus takes this opportunity. He sees this somehow, and he's ready to launch an attack on the king side. And he may even avoid castling by going to d2 or somewhere else eventually. Rook e8, another slight mistake. It's actually, yeah, it's a mistake. It's not, maybe not a blunder, maybe it is a blunder. It's hard to say. Um, it's a scary X-ray attack, and the knight's ready to pounce and to move and to get a check. So that's obviously very good. But the key thing that I found when looking over these lines is that Queen D7 best defends against this G4 square, and it takes away that invading square from the queen. And that's the main thing that I'm seeing. Because you're under attack, so you need to. How can you prophylactically defend against these attacks? And that's why Queen D7 instead of Rook E8 is better. G takes H5. The attack is commencing. Bishop F6. And this is a little interesting because setting up for the trade, but white can't actually take because if white takes the bishop, then knight takes, and it's check, and you're winning back the knight. So instead, what we see is but Magnus knows about this. He sees this and goes king f1, getting out of the way of the x-ray. Kind of, though, getting in the way of his own pieces. So can he get the king out of the way somehow and, commence an attack? And how is he going to do that, right? Bishop takes g5. Uh, another, this isn't too bad, but I think, the computer says it's not too bad, but I think the overall idea of bringing the bishop to f6 to trade is a bad idea. And what's so bad about it is you undouble these pawns, and then um, and you're getting rid of a piece that's basically in the way of white's attacking pieces. So, and you're getting rid of your good defending piece. So you kind of actually make it a little easier to attack you, going for that idea, which is why I think the computer doesn't like that line. So knight f5, pretty good move. I like this move, right? It's like a really strong outpost. Queen g4, and then queen e7, bishop e4. So the bishop follows suit of the queen. They can smell blood in the water. And of course, the constant theme in this game is getting out of the way and unveiling your attack, right? The bishop is getting out of the way, preparing this king to come over here to get out of the way, so that the rooks can come and bear their full force on the king side, right? Queen e5, queen h3, creating a battery as well. It's also something that's going on here. Rook e7, king g2. Now king g2 is a really good move, setting Carlsen up. Again, like I said, he's preparing himself for this attack that's coming. Now this was a little scary because there's like so many ways the queen can attack, but really there is no way the queen can attack you. You've got plenty of time to create a nice little home for yourself. Rook a e8, rook h2, creating your home for yourself. Knight g7, h takes g6. And now this position is just completely winning for white, completely dominating. This attack is set up, and white is completely safe. Queen takes g5, doesn't even matter. King h1, he's completely surrounded by his best subjects. There's only one attacking piece, and it's the queen, and it's not enough. F takes g6, queen h7 check, completely invading the territory. King f7, and then rook g1. So now Peng has 7 seconds. His queen is under attack. His king side has fallen. There's an X-ray attack through the queen to g6, and if you play queen f6, that's mate in 5. The only surviving move is the rook sack on e4, classic kitchen sink tactics, but Peng does not find that move. And let's go over. If you do this, moves queen f6, and then takes, king g8, queen h7, king f8, king h8, queen h8, king f7, and queen g7, checkmate. So you can't do that. So Peng sees that somehow in 7 seconds and decides to play rook e5. Bishop takes g6. You can't even take it because then the queen gets taken wholesale. Queen takes bishop, and then just rook takes or queen takes, and you're done. It's checkmate in 10 currently. King f6. Rook takes g5. The king is currently a dead man walking. It's mate in 8, and the best move is rook e1 here. He could play rook e1 here, and then you can maybe get some checks in and stuff. But it's done. You're done. Rook takes g5. Bishop takes e8, e5, and Peng surrenders with 4 seconds on the clock. A brilliant tactical kingside from Magnus Carlsen, showing that he's ready to go and that he's changing his behavior. He's back to maybe his old self. We'll see if he is completely, right? So some noteworthy things was how Peng spelled his own demise. Doing these knight trades in a copycat variation, they don't do nothing. When you trade pieces, you unveil attacks, you unveil lines, right? And that was the constant theme that we saw, was these attempts to trade pieces, and instead seeing that the opposite to the intended effect was occurring, and Magnus squarely takes this first game. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.